And so now I want to introduce you to Bryon Blackwell. His name's right there, account executive for Courseleaf online schedule building. I'm really grateful that the schedulers from the 4 colleges are here, and there's faculty and deans, etc., so that we can take a look at this product.
My name is Bryon Blackwell. I'm with Leapfrog Technologies. We are located in Iowa City, Iowa. I am located in San Diego, California, down there in San Diego Community College District area, which I worked at for 9 years. So I have half an hour to talk about our scheduling software, so I'm going to jump right into some PowerPoint.
You have till 11.
I have till 11? Oh, man. Okay. Then I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to slow down. No, I still have a lot to do until 11. So Leapfrog Technologies, software company in Iowa City. We have, since 1994, been developing web-based software. And if all of you can remember 1994 and what the web was like back then, some of you can't remember 1994. But that's a long time for web-based. We actually predate Netscape, a browser which has come and gone. Courseleaf consists of actually 4 modules, but I'm going to refer to the 3. Catalog management that I was all geared up to do this morning, we call CAT. Curriculum management. It is a competitor to CurricuNet, which you are probably familiar with. Integrates with our catalog management software. Today I'm talking about Section Scheduler. Section Scheduler is for planning and validating the class schedule. It's for your college and department schedulers to build that schedule. The goals with class. What happened with class? It's our kind of latest major module. We develop software kind of at the response to what we hear in the higher education community of the gaps that they need to fill in their administrative processes. And we were talking with a lot of our clients saying scheduling is an issue. And we can build a schedule. We can do it in PeopleSoft. We can do it in Banner. We can run reports to figure out if our schedule is working or not. But that's all cumbersome. So we need something that'll do that for us and allow us to plan and allow us to validate our schedule. So what we're looking at is to kind of take that process out of PeopleSoft and have a different, better user interface, some visual tools for planning, and really a key to validate the schedule before we put it into PeopleSoft. We need to know most of our clients would run lots of reports after they build their schedule to see if it works, to see if it meets the policies of the institution. Northwestern University was one of our development partners. They ran 45 reports to see if their schedule was okay. And the problem with that is after you do that, then you go back and I'm going to run through these because I'm not going to use them all. But then you rinse and repeat. If you find you have problems, then you communicate those out to the departments. Say, hey, fix these problems. And then they do it back. You update the SIS again, and then you run the reports again. So you get into a cycle of change, report, trying to finally come up with a great schedule. So with class, we want to take care of that. We want to give the tools. They go into class using their browser to maintain their schedule. Using class, we can efficiently use resources. We can uphold the scheduling guidelines. We actually configure rules right into the software. Transparency across the departments or even across colleges can be built into the system because you can go in and see what others are doing and you can actually integrate what they're doing into your scheduling as appropriate. And then the tool itself actually is a reporting tool. Plus, we have a downloadable SQL database of everything that's in Courseleaf in class that you can download at will and use your reporting tools to do any reporting you would like. The class is designed, I'm going to just give some kind of overview. It's designed to be able to work in phases like you probably do. Most of our clients have what we call a planning phase. Initially, when you go to build the schedule, you can pretty much change anything, or anything you're allowed to change scheduling-wise, you can do that. I call it the Wild West, because people can go and they can model, they can play, they can try things, see how it fits together. At some point, you probably say, okay, we're done playing, we're going to restrict what can be changed. So we move into another phase and say maybe we can just change instructors or change or assign rooms or things like that. As many phases as you have, we can build into Courseleaf. So all those different phases can be configured and identified, and each of those phases can have its own subset of scheduled data that can be updated. So as you restrict what can be changed based on need and based on how close you're getting to registration, we can build that right into class and configure it. Modes have to do with how we are interacting with PeopleSoft. Courseleaf class is designed with two-way integration with PeopleSoft. And at Leapfrog, when we say integration, we don't mean we're giving you a file of data and then you have to do something with it. What we're saying is that we give you the software that actually updates your PeopleSoft tables. And so your IT staff, it's more of a light load for them. They don't have to design something to take in the data that we give you. And to us, that's a big deal. That's really what integration is. So design mode is designed for that sandbox, Wild West phase where people are making changes. First of all, let me start. There's a nightly feed of schedule and course data from PeopleSoft into class. And we use the course data, so if you go to add a new section, it's obviously going to default some data from that course. So we pull that in. You probably roll like terms in PeopleSoft, and that's your starting point for scheduling. So we bring in that starting point. People are working in it. In the planning phase, we are not updating PeopleSoft at that point. So the changes they're making, if they're wild and crazy changes, that's fine. At the end of that, we're going to, and that is what we call in design phase, because at the end of that phase, then we're going to do a batch update of PeopleSoft. So all of the schedules, they actually get submitted and they get authenticated or approved, and then they go into PeopleSoft kind of in bulk. We make all those changes that they've made in PeopleSoft. At that point, we change from design mode to refine mode. And if someone goes in to, say, change an instructor, class is actually going to read PeopleSoft, pull that section into the user interface, they make the change, they save that change, it validates it, it may send it into workflow. Workflow is part of this. And once it is through workflow, then it will update PeopleSoft in real time. So the difference between design and refine is design ends in a batch update, refine is real-time update. Hope I made that clear. Guidelines and rules. There's two big things. One is configuring standard meeting times. So being able to build sets of meeting patterns that you would like your departments to use. And I say sets because we'll have different meeting times that might be appropriate for different departments or different colleges. If you have nursing programs or health programs, they may have wildly different meeting times than your arts and science classes. So you can define those and say these apply to nursing, these apply to arts and science. So as they're scheduling, they're actually dragging and dropping sections into pre-configured times. And we can enforce the use of those, or we can use the workflow to enforce it, but to allow exceptions. There's always going to be exceptions, most likely. So the second thing is configuring those rules. Configuring a rule that says, please use a standard meeting time. Well, that rule then, as they finish their schedule, they submit their schedule, they validate it, then it's going to run that rule. And if they have sections that don't use standard meeting times, it's going to flag those. It's going to display those. And if the outcome of that rule is to send it to workflow, then a pre-configured approval path will be utilized to have the right people see it and make an exception if they would like to. So they can make the exception, or they can say, no, you can't do that. They can send it back. It needs to be fixed. Common things are standard meeting patterns. The time block usage. Does anyone have issues with people trying to schedule things kind of in the middle of the day? We call it prime time. You know, the instructors, when do they want to teach? Well, you probably are instructors. They don't want to sit in traffic. I experienced a little of your traffic today. So they don't want to teach early. And then they got to pick up their kids for soccer practice in the afternoon. So they want to teach between 10 and 2 ideally. So things tend to bunch up there, and that's not good for students. So we can configure a prime time rule that says, hey, biology department, you have to schedule more than 50% of your sections outside of that 10 and 2 time block. And when they validate their schedule, if they didn't do that, it'll pop up and say, nope, you need to fix this. Okay? There's different ways to do that. Some do it on an hour by hour. Northwestern uses 15% for each hour between 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. So it's looking at each hour individually. Other things, awkward meeting times, data entry also is part of this. We didn't know that data entry would be part of the rules, but since we're updating PeopleSoft, we need to make sure people put in the right data. If you assign section numbers to certain types of classes, then we'll make sure that they do that in the rules. The rules can be so granular that you can, I always say, you can write a rule that says this particular instructor can't teach in this particular room. Okay? I don't want them next to my office. So, no. That can happen. It is very granular. You create subsets of classes that you then apply rules to. Okay? I have a great, I'm going to take time to tell this. We had someone tell us that they used dynamic room scheduling, room optimization, and one of the schedulers conspired with an instructor who always wanted to teach in the room right next to their office. They assigned an attribute of left-handed eraser to that room. So they always requested a left-handed eraser, and they always got that room. Okay. I don't even know if they were left-handed. Okay. Work in the system. And coming to that, one thing that, so class, I know there's scheduling software out there, and we knew that going into this. And the scheduling software that we saw was more room-oriented. And the thing that they do that class does not do is room optimization. Taking a bunch of classes that need rooms, taking a bunch of empty rooms at particular times, putting it together and having the software say where, which rooms those classes get. We don't do that. There's already software that does that. But what we do is the section-centric planning, validating, plus being able to assign rooms, being able to have departments own rooms. You may probably do that. You probably say, this subject code has these rooms, at least through the planning phase, and then maybe you take those back. If they haven't filled them, you'll take them and fill them with other sections. You can do that. And you can also have rules that are about how those rooms are used. You can write a rule that says, hey, if your expected enrollment is 20, then you can't select a room that has 100 seats. That's not good usage of the resources. So that can be built in and configured. So when the scheduler is doing it, they see that issue right in front of them before their schedule goes into PeopleSoft. Okay. I'm going to skip that one. I've kind of talked about that one a little bit. So efficiency, really what we're trying to do is build a great schedule for students, and that's what we feel a tool is made for. And then using the resources well, upholding guidelines. Our clients that use class have a cross-section of issues. Some of them are facility constrained. So they need to even out their classes throughout the day so that they can make use of their facilities. Others have all the facilities they need, and they don't need to worry about that. They have other issues where students can't get what they need. I like this. I always wonder, I keep meaning to ask Corey what the other piece of software was. I'm thinking it was, I don't know. Let me switch over to my browser here. And I'm going to move to my, my instance of class. And this is actually Northwestern's data. Northwestern is also a PeopleSoft school. And so this is the landing page. So it's browser-based. Any of the browsers you are probably using, the 4 major ones, Safari and Chrome and Internet Explorer and Firefox, which I'm using. We test it with all of those. And the landing page is showing me a few different things. One is a persistent message across the top, and that message is editable by an administrative user. I can go up here and make a change to this, and that gives me a place to put messages to my schedulers. Say, hey, here's your deadlines. It's right front and center all the time. So they see that. They know. They can't tell you, oh, you didn't tell me when it was supposed to be done. It's right there. The other is the different terms. We call them instances, but they're typically the terms that you're scheduling for. Notice that we have them grouped, past, present, and future. And present would be the ones that we would be working on towards starting to register students. The past, it's interesting, in our architecture in that we upload course and section data on a nightly basis. If we can upload one semester, we can upload 20 semesters. So we can upload all this history, and it's sitting here, and you can drill down and look at it. And another key thing is that if you're scheduling and you remember, hey, didn't we offer this class 5 years ago? And it would be good to offer it again. You can go find it in that old term, and with a couple of clicks, you can bring it forward. And now it's scheduled in your new term. In the present, I'm going to drill down. The future is for institutions that want people to be able to plan ahead. They can start working in future terms. And if maybe they're putting a new program in and they want to kind of start working to see how they can integrate that with what they already offer. So we can have future terms there. I'm going to drill down to 2017 spring because this is in the planning phase. I'm going to look at the clock so I don't go crazy here. And what I see here is what we call scheduling units, which are your departments or divisions that do their scheduling. They're really probably around your people, the people who are doing scheduling. At Northwestern, those would be departments and or schools, like the School of Business is a scheduling unit. Up at the top, it tells me how many courses I'm dealing with, how many sections I have, my persistent message. I'm going to drill down to chemistry with a double click here. And now it's showing me I have 24 courses in chemistry, 164 sections. And below it's showing me the course numbers, course code, and the title. And using the expander here, I can expand this and show all of the different sections that I have. I can also view this in a few different ways. We're looking at it by course. I can look at it by instructor and drill down to a particular instructor. I can also view it by day if I would like to go and see, what we're offering on a particular day. Yes?
On the big screen, the left edge of your screen
Oh.
is cut off.
That's us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but could you make your
Yeah, let me.
It's not in the.
Oh, thank you.
That is pretty narrow. Okay. Whoops. Okay. Yes.
Does this also show enrollment numbers at all, or just schedule?
It will show enrollment numbers. Yeah, when we look at the history, it shows what the actual enrollment was, and when we get to the editing here. So drilling down, I'm going to go back to my view by course and drill down to Chemistry 123 and open a section here. I'm just double clicking. So this is the data entry form for making changes here. I can probably widen that up a little bit. No, I can't. Okay. And you'll see here this is configurable. It's fairly standard among PeopleSoft clients, what would be here. It's showing a little narrow because of the projector. But this is where your department editors would come in and make changes. Instead of doing it in PeopleSoft or however you do it, they would make it here. You can say gray out fields, so you can allow them to change only what you would like them to change. We can manage instructors here. Notice Shelby Hatch is the instructor, and I can come here. I could add an additional instructor, And if I click on the drop-down, it's going to show me all of the instructors that belong to this department. Okay? And I can pick one, or I can also, if I scroll down, go to Other, then I can search through all of the instructors. So I could pick someone from outside the department. Okay. I just accidentally picked one. We have, that would be maybe the teaching assistant, and accept. Okay. If you use any type of room optimization software, we can also have room characteristics here. So for room scheduling, like I said, I can open the drop-down and show the rooms that chemistry owns, at least during this phase, and select from those rooms. I can also add up to 4 room characteristics from a list of valid values. So I can say I need a chalkboard with a left-handed eraser maybe. And so room optimization would then utilize that for automatically putting them in a classroom. Yes?
We use 25 Live for the room optimization.
Do what?
We use 25 Live.
Oh, 25 Live? Okay. Very common. I mean, not that the software is common, but a lot of people use it. You'll notice down here enrollment, so the fields that we would use for scheduling, the maximum, the weight cap, requested room cap, we can, and all of this data can be used in rules as we configure rules. This comment field is pretty interesting. We have a comment field, and there's comment field in PeopleSoft. We also have a notes field. Northwestern wrote rules that said, if there is something in the comment field, then send that to the registrar. So the people doing scheduling would, if they had special requests or needs, they would put it in a comment. It would automatically go to workflow and notify the scheduler in the registrar's office, who would then take care of it. Yes?
Is the comment field searchable?
Is it searchable?
So when you pull up list of classes, can you do it by particular keyword that's in the comment field?
So put a keyword in the comment? That's a good question. I believe so. Class, I'm going to show you, includes a filtering tool where I can filter sections by all of the data. So I would expect to be able to filter by values in the comments. So when I get there, I'll try that. The meeting pattern here, this is the time schedule. So I'm going to click on this, and it's going to open a tool we call the snapper, because you'll notice that as I drag my cursor, it snaps into standard meeting times. So if I want to drop it here, right now this class is scheduled at where it is in green, but if I could change it, I click here and it drops it right in there. I probably need to try and narrow this one down a bit.
Now, when it does that, if there's say there's not a room available or the appropriate room for the size, would it send a message?
The message would happen when the schedule is validated.
Okay.
But there is another view here I'm going to show you that is room and time. So in the snapper, we can have different, remember I said sets of meeting patterns. So I can select one that's 3 hours, 3 days. And as I select one, if I hover over the Rubik's Cube here, it shows me what that meeting pattern looks like. And so I know this one's just a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so I'm just dropping on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Schedulers do not have to use a standard meeting time. They can kind of make up their own, but pretty likely there's going to be a rule that flags it and says it at least goes to workflow. Okay. So you'll notice that in this view there are some other classes. And what that is are the explicitly related classes related in PeopleSoft, the other sections of Chemistry 123. And they happen to be lectures and labs. And so they're showing in my view. So I know I probably don't want to drop this, use my 3-day. I probably don't want to put it here because I already have one there. Okay, so I can see the other one. And here are the labs. I can actually take those out of the view. I can uncheck them. If it gets real clogged up here with something that has a lot of sections, I can filter them out. And the red bar here, let me take those out. the red bar shows me where Shelby Hatch is already teaching. So I know I'm not going to put it there unless I have a good reason to. Okay. My view here is a little, because of the projector, I'm going to come over here, and maybe when I'm scheduling Chemistry 123, maybe there's a math course that my students need to take the same semester. So I might want to put that in the view. So I can come over here and add Math 234 and show those sections. And if I had used this little permanent checkbox there, then it would make that a permanent relationship inside class. And every time I came in to schedule Chemistry 123, it would show my Math 234. Okay. So again, I can get that out of there if I would like to by unchecking it. The question about the rooms, and this is something that was not originally part of class, but at Leapfrog we keep listening, keep improving our software. And so we added rooms and meetings actually. Meetings is for split meetings. So if I have more than one meeting and they meet at different times, different days, different rooms, I can add that other meeting here. And then I can also select that meeting and schedule it separately from the other meeting. Okay. The rooms, if I click on rooms here, then it gives me a matrix view that has my times across the top and my rooms that chemistry owns down the left side. So I can not only drop it into a time slot, but I can select a room at the same time. Okay. Pretty handy. With the split meetings, I'll make a little confession about class. We did not set out to make class do everything that you people in higher education can think up. Okay. We had a client, not a client, but someone we talked to at a conference, and they said, what about this? We have a class that the first week of the semester it meets on Monday, and the second week of the semester it meets on Tuesday, and the third week it meets on Wednesday. And it rotates days every week throughout the semester. And we thought we could do that, and then our software would cost a lot more. And how many of your classes have that situation? Well, one. Okay, we're not doing that. Okay, so we set out to do what would handle 95% of what a given institution does. If we tried to do every odd thing, then it would just make it so complex, it would not be feasible. And the meetings came out of that. Meetings were not part of the original software until we had a client and they said, we need split meeting times. And we said, nah, you don't need split meeting times. What percentage of your classes have split meeting times? And they said 15%. So there's our threshold, and boom, we put that into the software. Okay. All right. I'm going to back out here gracefully. And I'm back at Shelby Hatch here. So let's say that I have finished. Actually, I'm going to back up to economics. I like using economics for this better, just because of the rules that it breaks. Okay, so drilling down to economics, once I'm done with my schedule, then I can click where'd it go? Validate. This is so narrow that it doesn't have the words. It usually has the words up there. But I'm going to click validate. And so now it's running the rules that apply to economics. So like I said, the rules can be granular. And they can apply to specific departments, specific types of courses, specific anything. Usually groupings, but it depends on how specific you want to get. And notice that there are 27 total rules. We're working through them. I hope it finishes. This site is on a demo server, and sometimes it times out. But we've passed 8 of them. We've failed 4 of them. There we go. And notice the top. So there's 3 different outcomes of a rule. The top one here, it's a blue dot. You can't really see, but there's a little group of people in there. That says, please use a standard meeting time. If you submit this schedule, then this is going to workflow. This is going to use the built-in Courseleaf workflow and send this to the people identified to review and approve or make an exception if they would like to. Okay. You can configure different approval paths for each different rule. And like I say, the notification, they receive an email notification. In that email, there's a link. They can click the link. It opens their browser to the approval form and shows them what is waiting their attention. And they can click through each class waiting for them and take action. I don't think it's going to finish, but that's okay. So the next one here is the enrollment cap is less than or equal to the assigned room cap. Can't be greater than that. So this one, the outcome is an error. And if we get the error symbol there, it says, you can't do this. Scheduler, you need to fix it and then resubmit, revalidate your schedule. Okay. The last one here, prime time scheduling. One example, this is Northwestern that does it by hour. This has the little yellow dot with the exclamation point. This is a warning. So what they're doing is saying, you violated this rule. We're not real happy with it, but we're going to let it go. Okay? And most of our clients will, because this is really new to their schedules, they will start off by configuring rules as warnings. And the first semester they schedule, they'll say, look at all these warnings. And they'll say, yeah, some of those warnings next time are going to be errors, or they're going to go to workflow. So it eases people into using the system and recognizing what types of issues they have with their schedule that the institution is concerned about. Okay. So their prime time schedule, they're looking by hour, and it actually is evaluating all of the hours between 10 and, it looks like 3, and showing the percentages. The 11 o'clock hour is the one that's in violation. It has 17.6%, and it's only supposed to have 14.99% at most. And notice they put a link. The messaging that you put in here is up to you. You can write statements that everyone can understand, and it explains it instead of what most ERPs do and just give you cryptic things with numbers. You tell them what the error is and maybe what they need to do about it. Okay. Now, if this was clean, then if it had no errors, it can have warnings, it can have workflow, then it would finish up and result in a submit button, and they would submit this, it would start workflow. Okay. While I'm on economics, some other tools here. So I've edited, I've shown validation. This is a little flame, and it says visualize. So I'm going to click that. And that opens the heat map view of all the sections that I'm currently looking at. I'm currently looking at economics. So these are all of the economics classes. And the legend at the top shows me that I might have scheduled just one during a time slot up to 19. And that's probably right here, I think, 19. So as I hover, it's showing me how many are at each time and day. And I can actually drill down and say, there's 6 here. What are they? And there they are. So it's kind of reporting to me what my schedule looks like. But the heat map gives us an easy way to see how we're scheduled, how we're kind of filling the time throughout the week. And I can do that on any subset of information that I'm viewing right here. Like I said, right here I'm looking at economics. I'm going to back up to show all of these here, and I'm going to click on filter. Notice I still have a visualize. I could visualize for the entire institution. That would take a while, so I'm not going to click that button unless I do it by accident. But I'm going to filter. And filtering is an important part of Courseleaf. I'm trying to think of where, I'm just going to show you a quick filter by course title. So I'm going to say by organic. But notice all of the fields that I have available for filtering. Pretty much everything in the database. And if I can, uh-oh.
Can you configure those fields and add them as say like if this system has a few custom attributes in their database, can you add that to the Courseleaf?
Add the attributes?
Yeah.
Any data that we're pulling in, we can filter on.
Okay.
And I'm going to have a little issue here, I think. Oh, here we go. So I put in the title, course title, organic, and I'm going to apply that. This view is better. So now it's showing me I have 8 organic chemistry courses, 16 sections. Here's what they look like. And I can also click visualize. So that subset I can visualize. So if I wanted to visualize, take 2 subjects and see how they're laid out, you know, biology and chemistry. Then I could come into my filter, I'm going to clear the filter, and I could say my subject code, say BIOL, comma, CHEM. And that would pull all of the biology and chemistry courses, and I would be able to view those together or work on those together. And so I can do it by any of the course attributes, the section attributes, room attributes. At Northwestern, they don't have a lot of large lecture halls. They don't have a lot of large classes. So, but there's one called Leverone Hall. I could put Leverone Hall in, and I could see when it's being used, and know, okay, here's when it's available. So I'm going to go put my lecture in Leverone Hall. I was going to look. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I'll probably in the section see if the comment. There's comment. So if there's a value in comment that I want to search on, I can do that. Okay. Or filter on. All right. The rules I wanted to show you briefly. And I know that's hard to see, but what we're looking at are the rules that Northwestern designed. And they wrote tons of rules. So things like cancellations not allowed at this time. Over on the right is my rule, and on the left is the title. And a rule consists of filters and tests. So I create a filter to say, what does this apply to? And then my test. And my test in this case would be, it's a cancellation. This is telling me that, you know, in particular, I can assign it to particular phases. I can tell which mode, if it's both modes, design and refine, or just one of them, I can do. My test group can be a section, or it can be the entire scheduling unit, the department. And then I tell it on failure what happens. So here's my error. I can make it an error. I can make it a warning. And then the rest of these are pre-configured approval paths, workflow, that say it needs to go to this role, then to this role, it needs to go to the dean of instruction, go to my department chair, it needs to go to student services, and then whoever are in those roles would receive emails when something is waiting for them. They click it and they go in and see it. Okay. So lots of different workflows here. Something I can also, interesting that I can do is standard, I'm going to find the standard meeting time rule, and I'm going to pick a phase here that I think is the right one, 4620, I think. And I can run this as the administrator that has access to this area. So everyone would not come in here, but your scheduling administrators would. They can come in and pick a rule and run that rule and see what's going on. Say, where do I have issues with standard meeting times? Okay. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. Oh, here we go. And so what this is showing me is that over my total schedule, for the sections that standard meeting times apply, there are 1,175 sections that are covered by that rule that are not valid. So that's bad. There's 1,187 that are covered by the rule that are valid. So I'm about 50-50 there. They have some different standard meeting patterns. So Kellogg, the business school, has its own. So they're doing pretty good. But you can see, pretty nice to come in, to have rules, be able to come in and see what's going on institution-wide as central scheduling. Okay. Okay, I need to stop and answer some questions. Yes?
The first question is, since we use 25 Live to assign the classroom, so how this will integrate with Courseleaf?
So
Yeah, can you repeat the question so that?
yeah, she asked, since you use 25 Live for assigning classrooms, how would this work with 25 Live? And we do not integrate with 25 Live. I will go back to this slide here. So we're separate from 25 Live. We've thought about integrating with 25 Live, and right now what we're doing is with class, with PeopleSoft here, the section goes, the schedule goes from PeopleSoft in the nightly feed, and then we use web services to update PeopleSoft. So we kind of have a circle of life going here between PeopleSoft and class. When it comes time to finish the room scheduling, because you can assign rooms here, we still look to R25 to do the room optimization. And so you would do your normal export, optimize rooms, bring it back into PeopleSoft. But the other parts, and I don't know that we will ever be able to say, okay, go from class to R25 to PeopleSoft, because now they're seeing us as a competitor. They're not going to do that with a competitor. But it was talked about shortly until they realized we were a competitor. But we're scheduling from a section-oriented view, and we're able to do room assignment and have rules around room assignment. But like I said, not the optimization. So I would expect an institution still to use R25 for room optimization, filling those rooms. If you don't want to have someone in the district office or wherever go in and fill all those empty rooms, then have the software do it.
Thank you. The second question is there any validation rules regarding this workload? Like, say, for example, econ, they are allowed to use 10 FTF only. Is there any rules to grab all the econ courses and flag it if it's more than 10 FTF, stuff like that?
I'm really not sure. I know we could, but I think we could, because back on the rules, what we're doing is we're filtering. So I'm saying, okay, give me all the econ courses, and then the test could be sum up all the FTE, and see if it's greater than 10. So I would think we would be able to do that, given the data. Yes.
You showed the possibility of multi-term scheduling. Is it possible to build models of sort of pathways to completion, so that if you see someone taking, if you have a student entering at this point and they take this class or this cluster of classes, can you predict demand out and out semesters?
Okay. I think that I kind of hear two questions, because you said predict, and predictive scheduling we are not doing at this point. And I know of one software company that is trying to do it, and we're not hearing that they're very successful, because it's a tough thing to do. So on that point,
To your institution, it's not that far.
yeah, but for the pathway, I'm not sure we're going to have a view that is going to show the progression in a view inside, inside your browser.
I just had noticed you had the related courses within one term.
Right.
So I was wondering, could you build that across a couple terms to see that someone could actually complete their program in 2 years or 3 years by seeing which courses they needed and where they were tentatively scheduled? That's different than the,
Yeah.
like, how many students are there.
Right.
But is it even physically
Are they
possible to
available?
complete this program within, X many terms?
I'm kind of working on the fly here, and I'm not a developer, but to me, you could certainly open up windows side by side and show different terms and say, okay, here's this course or this subset of courses. So you could go in and filter and create a view of just the courses in that program. And then you could do that. And actually, the filters are using a browser is interesting. And with the filters, if I create a filter, I can bookmark it. So if I want to go back to it, it's in my bookmarks, boom, I have my filter of all the courses that are in this program. So I could open multiple browsers in multiple terms and show them, if I have a big enough monitor or a couple monitors, show them side by side and be able to do that. But I'm thinking that sounds like a workaround, but we don't have a view that's going to show multiple terms. But it's certainly doable.
But there's a structure inside your sandbox that shows scheduling for multiple terms. So you would at least have the opportunity to
Yeah.
open up those multiple.
Oh yeah, you could open up the multiple terms, if future terms, as long as you have probably rolled them in PeopleSoft and we pulled them in. I don't know if you're scheduling that far out. I don't know how far out you go. Yes?
How do you create the term? Is it you started from scratch or you roll it over from prior?
Well, that would be something you do in PeopleSoft, right? Do you roll like terms in PeopleSoft?
Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
So that's our starting point. We bring that data into class.
So first I roll the term and then you take it to the.
Correct.
software.
Yeah, you roll it in PeopleSoft. We import it to class.
I think I heard that in the planning stage, that anyone can come in and work on the schedule until it's validated. Is that correct?
Not the anyone. So there's a security layer to say people who are able to schedule chemistry can go work on chemistry. So the chemistry scheduler can go build chemistry, and through the planning phase, they can keep making updates after the planning phase, but depending on how you structure your scheduling, what they can change can be restricted.
So no other department can go in
No.
and work on that?
No, we don't have
It's like-
departments
it's like-
changing each
Yeah,
other's
one
schedule.
scheduler per campus.
And then
Yeah.
can you also, I noticed that you had, the dates at the top of when the schedules due, or
Mhm.
when phases of the schedules due.
Yeah.
Can you also have like a cutoff point, like nothing beyond this point?
Oh, yeah.
We won't take any changes.
Yep. That would be another, kind of the terminal phase would be no more changes.
And anybody can read those deadlines?
Yeah,
Like-
that's a persistent
Right now, we
message.
don't have that,
Yeah, this message, whatever is in this box is always at the top of the view in class.
There were other questions here. I don't know whose hand was first, Rochelle.
Rochelle was the first.
The demo you gave was for a university.
Mhm.
And since we are a multi-college district, is there any way of seeing, because often there's conflict of scheduling the same class at all 4 colleges
Mhm.
at the same time? And so like you had a warning that came up where there's a conflict. Is there any way of having some type of integration of other campuses scheduling that would pop up?
Yeah, if you're in one instance of class, you're all using the same one, which we can do, then the rules could cross those boundaries.
Oh, okay.
So if
Yeah.
I'm building the chemistry schedule at Merritt, I can see what days and times that Laney, College of Alameda are also offering the
Yeah.
same classes. That would be very useful.
Yeah, very useful.
And also back to a question that Maney had about flagging FTF. When a chair is scheduling adjunct faculty, they don't always know that they're teaching at another class, and they're trying to add them, but they've actually reached the maximum of their load. Is there a way to build a flagging around that?
I think there should be. Like I said, we can filter down to instructor.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
They filter
Yeah, by
instructor.
instructor's
Yeah.
name.
and also overlapping schedule, we don't have that right now.
Right. over
I mean,
11
by the
times?
instructor, I can schedule instructor at the same time without flag.
Without a flag, okay.
Unless
This
I
would-
go back and forth and check the, schedule.
This would show if you're putting Joe Smith at the same time.
Mhm. Yeah, the red bar in
Save a lot of
the
emails.
calendar view.
Question?
So the question I have was, I'm in charge of the physics schedule, and when I schedule for my physics classes, I like to look at what the math department has, so that
Mhm.
I don't conflict with their schedule. But I was wondering how that would work in the workflow. If there's a single deadline, then math department wouldn't have scheduled their classes by the time I would want to schedule
Yeah,
mine.
you can only see what they have scheduled so far.
So
I mean, but you can bring those into that snap review.
That's where, in my opinion, because I get what you're saying and what he's saying, right? You're building it, you want to see what math is doing. Math isn't done, but you can see what they're doing. But that's where we need our campus enrollment management committees to have regular meetings as well, so that chairs can look at this, can ask those kinds of questions before the deadline comes. As opposed to building the schedule in isolation so much, we should be having active enrollment management committees on our campuses. Some colleges do that. You know, before it's finalized, everybody kind of takes a look at it and looks for those kinds of issues before it's finalized.
Yes?
So my understanding is faculty will go, whoever, like department chair faculty will go to CLSS, change the classes, and then the system will do the validation. Only when the scheduler approved it, when it goes to people's.
Correct. Yeah, so, yeah, only approved schedules and schedule changes go into PeopleSoft. Okay. Yes?
So you don't create sections in here, you create them in PeopleSoft?
You can create them here as well.
Create them in here as well.
Yeah. So if I'm in anthropology, I just use for the demo I'd do a change, but here I can say for Anthro 211 SA, I can create a new one, and it'll open with the defaults using the default from the course. I can assign my instructor. I can decide when it meets and so on.
And if there is any update in PeopleSoft, will it be reflected in CLSS on real time?
Say that again.
I updated the class in PeopleSoft after it was approved and pushed to PeopleSoft. Some updates happened in PeopleSoft.
Right.
It will be reflected in CLS.
It would be reflected in class unless that section is in workflow. So we don't overwrite a section that is currently being approved. But if it's not in workflow, it'll bring in the change from PeopleSoft. Keep it in sync.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What other questions? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Nathan.
So, what about the write back when it goes to PeopleSoft? You said it could bring in any field that Veralto specifies. Bring in PeopleSoft. Will it write back any field too? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and we're looking at course and section data.
Yeah.
So if you're not thinking of something outside that purview, but if you have it in your database, we bring it in.
Excellent. What other questions do people have? We're passing around the sign-in sheet, and if you could definitely put your name on there, because we want to send a little follow-up quick survey on just other questions you have, or what you think about the product in this initial, look at it, so that we can get some, collective feedback around it. Yeah.
Is there any reports that generated from this?
Any other what?
Any reports?
Reports?
Oh yeah, good question.
Yeah, the part of it is just built in, being able to filter, and any set of classes that I'm looking at here, I can export those to Excel or PDF. So I could export those to Excel. So I can generate, I could easily go in and say, oh, here's the schedule for this instructor because they're in France and they want to know, and I could export it to a PDF and send it to them. I can create those different subsets of information, send it to Excel. We also have a downloadable SQL database. Our clients, a lot of the time, especially in curriculum and catalog, are either university registrar's office or student services offices, and they have people that do reporting. So our clients were clamoring for data, and so we created a downloadable SQL database of pretty much everything that's in Courseleaf that you can download and run reports off of.
All right, excellent. We want to thank you for coming and demonstrating your product to us. And I'll look forward to some, just some more information, particular
Okay.
information, and so that we can continue considering this.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Hope you get to enjoy Oakland while you're here.
Heading to the airport.
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I'm going to enjoy San Diego.